My guest today is Wendydarling, who is a founder of the Miraculous Living Institute and co-founder of the GTD Consulting and the Miraculous Living Institute. With over 40 years of experience as a management and organizational development consultant, corporate influencer, relationship and transformational results expert, speaker, seminar facilitator, master healer, and coach, her entire career has been dedicated to the decoding of what needs to happen to create results. In today's episode, Wendy and I talk about her #1 best-selling book, Create Your Miraculous Life. It's never too late. That helps you discover how you can also create and live a beautiful, fulfilling, and miraculous life. Welcome to Lifeology.
Oh, James, thank you so much for having me today.
It is my pleasure. You and I had a wonderful talk in the pre-call, and I was just blown away by everything that you've accomplished in your life. The person with whom I'm speaking today is not the person that I would have been speaking to many years ago, obviously, but there's such a huge difference between that person and the person I'm speaking with today. In 1990, something happened. Can you walk me through that?
Yeah, just very briefly. My background is I have a couple graduate degrees in counseling psychology, postgraduate work in management and organizational development. Started my own business in 1981, and I was traveling across the country under contract with a Fortune 100 company. I was very driven and a bit irresponsible in that I was sick and thought, I'm invincible and I'm going to get on that plane and go out to LA. Well, I never made it. I ended up going out outside the Dallas airport to get some fresh air because I was really sick. And unfortunately, I passed out. I fell over a ledge and I fell 25 feet.
Oh my God. Oh my gosh. I didn't know that.
And I shattered my right leg. I had multiple surgeries and didn't know for almost 11 months if I would ever walk again, which I do. I had some back fractures, and I also was later diagnosed with a traumatic brain injury, which is very relevant in just a minute. Mm-hmm. Now, if that was not enough, my former husband came suitcases packed saying he no longer wished to be married. And even though I take full responsibility for my portion that contributed to that decision, I think you might agree the timing wasn't great. Not that it ever is. And the true blow actually came when we went to court. He happened to be an attorney, and he was awarded full custody of our son, who was only 4.5 at that time. And there was nothing I loved more than being my son's mom. And that's really, really when I broke in a million pieces. And it was my mom who suggested I learn how to meditate. And at that time, quieting my mind was a complete oxymoron, but desperate times, right? And I went to someone, and actually, this is when my healing gifts and what is now the miraculous living method started to unfold. Because I remember saying to my instructor, it's interesting. Every time my mind almost feels like it's going to relax, I get this urge to sing. And he said, well, sing. And I started laughing. I said, you don't understand. I actually have people in my life that request I not do that. So he said, it's true. And so he said, Wendy, give it a shot. So I went back to my little place, got in that space, and this melodic type of singing came out of me. And for the first time in a very long time, not only did my mind relax, but also my body. And I was living in Dallas at the time, and what they say is true. Everything is a little bit bigger. I would do this meditation and singing in my closet, and I was really in the closet with all of this because this was all new to me. I had not been that girl. And little by little, I started seeing energy. I found ways that I could move it. I can see whether you're in Florida and I'm in California or you're in Australia. I close my eyes and I can see you. And I can see where there's energy stuck, interfering from you getting the results, being the person you were designed to be. And we can shift it. And what's also very distinct about my body of work is that we also work with the mind to be in alignment with your deepest desires. And so I've been blessed that even though my journey was rather stressful, shall we say, and traumatic, it guided me to a place that I can now help people get the results they want so much easier and faster. And for that, I'm
That's
forever
amazing.
grateful.
Wow. Well, first off, thank you so much for sharing the story. I knew a little bit about your background, but I can't imagine everything you went through. And in that moment, you had a choice. Everything you just said is incredibly devastating on every level, multiple levels. How did you decide? Your mom says, try this. How did you even get to the point of saying, I have a choice. Do I live or do I die? Metaphorically or physically, mentally. How did you make that decision to say, no, I choose life?
Yeah, that is something I'm very grateful for. I'm not going to lie. There were many days, probably even weeks, that I just wanted to pull the cover over my head. I
Mm-hmm.
probably did. One of my best friends back then said, "You are the best crier I have ever met." I was just grieving so deeply. And thank
Yeah.
goodness there was something in me, and I believe it was my soul that was saying, there's more to this. Because my
Yes.
prayer back then was, what first of all, I was looking at what steps had I taken that got me where I was, and what was going to be necessary for me to dig out of this hole, because my life was completely unknown to me. I was living life on a
Mm-hmm.
complete blank slate. And I prayed. I said, okay, God, if you show me how I can dig out of this hole, I promise I will pay it forward. And I said, and if you could just make it just a little bit easier and faster, that would be awesome. And the good news is my wish got fulfilled. And it took
Yeah.
me in a whole new way of living life. Obviously, not just the trauma of my accident, but I was raised in a very critical environment, and my mom was very abusive. My self-worth was very low.
Mm.
I grew up having to depend on others to tell me if I was okay or not. And that's kind of cliff
Mm.
noting it. And
Sure.
so the miraculous living method helps us redesign all of that. And
Yeah.
we literally magic wand time. If you could wave your magic wand, how do you want to be living your life? Because we really go with your deepest desires, because I believe they guide you in the direction of your truth.
Yes. Well, tell me more about that. So, in the book, Create Your Miraculous Life, It's Never Too Late. Is this a blueprint to help people create that quote magic wand? I mean, if that we're saying that in a funny way, but this type of blueprint to help people actually achieve their miraculous life?
Absolutely. There's a process in there. It's one of my favorites. Well, it's not fair to say it's one of my favorites, but it's readily accessible. And that is called the results accelerator exercise. And at some point,
No.
again, I was always looking for ways to make it easier and faster. And
Mm-hmm.
I had 10 areas that I help people identify that if they focus here first, it's going to help them get to their result easier and faster. For example, years ago, I was working with somebody. His business was taking a deep nosedive. He didn't know what was going on. His entry point, his results accelerator, was to start dating. Me, the person, would never have
Interesting.
suggested that. I would have
Yeah.
said, let's get your business up and running. Then we can talk about the dating thing. Because that's one of the things I do is I help people attract love, which I happen to
Oh,
love.
nice. Okay.
It is. It's fun.
Great.
And so we were both a little skeptical, but I said, let's trust the process. And he was open. I helped him get his online profile. He started chatting with women. He was living in Costa Rica, connected in less than 3 weeks to a woman in Brazil. And
Wow.
they just had this amazing connection. And guess what happened shortly after that? Out of the sky, he lands this huge contract. Everything's good
Mm.
again. He moves to Brazil in about 3 months. Another example is a
Wow.
woman that came to me because I helped her friend release 60 pounds in a little under 4 months, which was pretty
Oh
incredible.
my gosh. Wow.
And so her results accelerator was we needed to focus on her career. And she was not happy about that. She said, I didn't come here to talk about my career. And so after a little talk, chit chatting about that, I said, let's trust the process. Well, it turns out she was miserable in her career. I
Mm.
helped her revise her resume. We got her going. She literally got a new job in 3 weeks. Guess what started
Wow.
happening after the job?
Yeah, I bet.
So
Yes.
sometimes it is a
Wow.
direct correlation from money to
Mm-hmm.
money, business
Mm-hmm.
to business, love to love. But a lot of times it's not. And it's just fascinating how that happens. So in the book, there are different exercises, but also in the book, I have to say, I make a jumpstart offer because usually people work with me a little bit longer. And especially with the pandemic and the challenges people are facing today, I said, what can I offer to really help people now that doesn't need me
Yes.
much? Because usually they don't need me much anyways. And so I put together a jumpstart package that's me for 90 minutes. You learn the process, you work with it. You just have to reach out to me directly. But
I love that.
it's I want people to be living the life that they were designed and destined to live. And
Yes.
so I like to just find anything interfering. Let's get you aligned and be off with your
Yeah.
best self.
Wow, that's. I love these stories. I mean, because it's just hearing that, I'm like, oh my goodness, I want to learn this jumpstart process too. Because for all of us, we have an idea, a conscious idea of where we want to go, what we want to do. But if our subconscious and then the non-conscious mind, which is kind of like everything's stored, all of our memories, everything as well. If all that, like you said, is not aligned, so what I think I'm really want, but versus what my subconscious really wants, then you're right. There is going to be a disconnect. And so one of my favorite quotes is, "Divided waters lose force." So if my
Yes.
conscious mind is focusing on this, my subconscious mind is focused on this, well, that's divided waters, which doesn't allow me to be truly focused to really achieve, to go a little bit further than what I really, to accomplish what I really want to accomplish.
Well, what I love about this is, it's estimated we have 60,000 thoughts a day. That's a whole lot of
Yes.
thinking that we're
Mhm.
not even
That's,
aware is going on. So, between the sound healing, which is one portion of the process, I also
mhm,
receive designs that also hold a frequency. And so people will put their hands on the cards and it creates a very unique circuitry. And then either I'm given downloads of
mhm,
statements, of affirmations. We create a whole life
mhm,
scenario that people say. What happens is, as you're training the mind, either strengthening existing neural pathways or
mhm.
possibly creating new ones.
Creating new ones.
As
Mhm,
you're saying, let's say an affirmation. I've worked with women who are abused. So a very common affirmation in their scenario will be, I am safe. Well, anything that's not in alignment with that is going to rise up and go, oh, really? And it's going to reveal itself, not necessarily
yeah.
consciously, but the process of the sound healing and the frequency that's in the design, that circuitry melts it away. And so you're
Interesting.
continually just moving things out of the way. And it's gentle, it's easy. You don't have to know what it is. The process takes
Yeah.
care of it, which I also love. Okay.
Wow. So I've done previous shows with Dr. Caroline Leaf, who is the world-renowned person who talks about the restructuring of one's mind, the neurology of it. And so my listeners would like to go back and also listen to that one as well, because it explains the science of what Wendy's talking about as well. So if people want more of the science, this is what that was talked about. Wendy's talking about the application of that. And so it's so interesting to me because everybody has an expertise. You have your expertise, I have my expertise, other people have their expertise, but it all works in tandem and in concert rather, so that we all have a different entry point to say, this is how we can create a miraculous life. And so I'm so happy to hear about yours as well. Even when it comes to sound, people don't realize that we're always noise and sound. It affects us all the time. There's a recent legislation that was passed that I remember everybody's watched TV before and like, oh my God, why is that commercial so loud? And so there's a legislation that was passed that the commercial now has to be quiet. But the workaround that people have done is now the volume is decreased, but the hertz have been changed. So now it affects you probably a little bit more. It doesn't sound as loud, but the way they manipulated the sound now affects it more. So then you recognize that, or you have to pay more attention to that commercial, even though they've changed the sound. So what Wendy's talking about is sound influences us all the time. You listen to a piece of music that makes you cry. Well, it's because the sound and the beating, and what beating means as a composer here, what beating is so you have two notes that hit together. And what it does is it creates a vibration in your ear. And then when it's resolved, one note is moved down. Then all of a sudden you're like, oh, that's beautiful. And so what sound can do that, it can change your blood pressure, can change the dilation of your eyes. It can do so many different things when it comes to sound. So Wendy's talking about
So
ways in which
true.
she's able to recognize how to help with sound, to be able to remove some of the energy, and I say that as physics, that type of energy, to remove that from your body, which is when energy in according to physics, when it's caught in a certain spot and it's released, you actually find that the tension is released as well. So talking about that as well, many different levels, from a science approach to a mental health approach to musical approach, so many approaches. But what Wendy's talking about is how sound can actually decrease areas in your body of resistance. So you have done so many things. I love that you're in my field as well. We're definitely going to talk more about this offline because I have a couple questions I want to ask for you as well.
Okay.
So with this book, who would this book be for?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Who is the ideal reader for this book?
Oh, okay. Well, anybody that still feels like there's more they want to be experiencing in their life. There's a
Mm-hmm.
chapter on it's never too late to attract love. There's a chapter on replenishing your relationship or starting your business or creating wealth. So it takes on different angles. But the gist of it is really, first of all, the subtitle is It's Never Too Late for Anything
So
that
true.
you truly
Yes.
desire. Now, I will say I'm a bit biased because I do want you to be living the life of your dreams, and it is possible. But I'm also
Mm-hmm.
a little, I can't say selfish, but I want you to be making your special mark. I think we're all
Yes.
put on this earth, this wonderful life school that we participated in. I'm like, boy, I don't know if I signed up for this or not, but I guess I did. And 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 it's to show people that it's never too late. I mean, my own mom
Yeah.
attracted love for the third time at 82. She started a
Wow.
career in her early 50s. You know, I've worked with other people that have attracted love later in life, including me. And so I wrote this book at a time that we were in the midst of a pandemic last year. I was
Mm-hmm.
69 years old, rapidly approaching 70, which is just so bizarre in my mind, I must say. But okay, it is what it is. People say it's just a number. I'm
Yeah.
like, I know, I'm more than aware.
Unless
And
you're 70.
and and yet I I also went through a very challenging time with my son. He became very ill last year. So my
Mm.
own life was feeling very unmiraculous. And once again, I'm feeling this pull to write this book. And it was a gift in many ways because I too had to dig deep to find that faith, to find that trust, to find
Yes.
an
Yes.
opening for what was even possible in my life. I'm happy to say my son's doing rather well. I'll say we're
Good.
cautiously optimistic. But
Good.
I knew that I wasn't alone. There are still so many people confused and challenged because we are not out of the woods yet with our pandemic. We really
Mm-hmm.
don't know yet how this is going to impact our future and what possibly normal might be.
Sure.
And it doesn't take a rocket scientist to see that our country and our world is in a lot of turmoil. So I desire whomever feels like they have more to offer. Those are my peeps because I
Yes.
want you to
Love
be
that.
making your special contribution. It could be just with a friend or a family member. It doesn't necessarily mean you're to be the next Tesla inventor. It's
Mm-hmm.
it's it's whatever you were designed for because we were all born just like our thumbprint with a uniqueness that's like no other. And your job in life and what I support people with is discover what are your gifts, what's your uniqueness,
Yes.
and
Exactly.
how can you develop those skills in a way that you make that mark. And
Yes.
it's never, ever, ever too late. Period. I'm a little
Well
biased.
spoken. I know, I agree with you. I love hearing these stories. I mean, that's wonderful about your mom, wonderful about you. I've read things about, a woman, she was like 95 or something like that, just finished her college degree. That was something she always wanted to do. And I agree with you. It's never too late. And so that's just such a reminder for all of us that you're never too old. You're never too this, you're never too that. only if you believe that's true, then unfortunately that's true. So as we know, every change starts with a thought. As in psychology, we teach whatever you perceive to be true, what you think about determines what you feel determines what you do. So everything
Yes.
links back to that thought. And so that thought that you're helping people with right now is just be mindful. Well, what am I actually thinking about? So it's a great thing about your book, Create Your Miraculous Life. It's never too late. That really helps people focus and hone in on what is it? So you have your conscious mind thinking something, your subconscious mind thinking about something. And if they're not thinking about the same thing, then unfortunately you are not going to go in the direction you
And
want to go.
I want people to be, their minds to be in alignment with their deepest desires, period.
Yes.
And that's one of the things I do is I help them design their life to really wake up the desires, because sometimes life and responsibilities or challenges and traumas squash them and we bring them back. And once that
It's
happens and we
amazing.
dial up your intuition and a few other things, the results are phenomenal.
I love it. Wendy, darling, it has been an absolute pleasure having you on my show today. If my listeners want to find out more information about you and to purchase this book, Create Your Miraculous Life, it's never too late. Where will they find this information online?
Well, first of all, you can get the book on Amazon, both in Kindle and paperback. There are a variety of ways to get in touch with me. My website is wendydarling.com. And there are a couple places that you can listen to an audio. There's an RQ assessment, which has to do with your relationship quotient. It'll give you information, but it also puts you on my mailing list to find out about other things. And I now have interviews with people sharing these amazing stories of miraculous moments. And if you want to know more about a jump start, email me directly at wendy@wendydarling.com.
Excellent. Well, my listeners also note that if they cannot find this information any other place, simply go to the show notes at jamesmillerlifeology.com, and I'll have all the links there. I'll have Wendy's email address, and I'll connect you with Wendy. Wendy, thank you once again for being a wonderful, wonderful
James,
guest.
my pleasure. Thank you.